Howdy Hive Scum, and welcome back to another heap of Necromunda content from me. Today we're going to be talking through the two new books, in fact, Gangs of the Underhive and Gangs of the Outlands. I got these from an awesome new store in Sydney called Little Blue Dragons, so shout out to Little Blue Dragons. Do go and check them out in North Sydney if you're here. If not, please go and follow them on Instagram as well. In this video, we're going to be talking through all of the gangs in this book, Gangs of the Underhive. So this is our 6 house gangs, as well as Enforcers, Venators, and I can't remember who else, but we're going to go through all of them and give you a general overview. This is not a gang guide video. I will be going through and doing full and comprehensive gang guides on all of the factions in Necromunda when we have their respective journals out and when I've played a bit more of the game, because what I don't want to do is give you a bunch of information which is based on my first impressions. I haven't played a lot of Necromunda yet. I'm still getting my head around it, so I'm going to make mistakes. I'll wait to do those gang guides when I'm really ready to do them, okay? Another thing as well, just quickly, is, you know, we've had 9 years of Necromunda, and now we've got a sudden shift into a new set of rules. And what that means is that, you know, there are a lot of changes, and some of them you kind of have to take with a pinch of salt, because your gang might look very different here in how they play to what they used to be like. And in some cases, that is, you know, quite shocking. And in others, just reserve judgment until you start playing, because even though you don't like something on the page, just give it a chance before you really start playing it, because you might figure out that there are other things that you can do and other options in this new rule set that make it more agreeable for you. Now, before we get into it, something I really appreciate here, and it's crazy actually, is that these hardback books, they have, you know, the inside cover, the contents, and then it just gets straight into it with House Cawdor. Brilliant. No fluff, no messing around, no blank pages or anything like that. Page 6, House of Faith, boom. All the lore on those 2 pages. 2 pages of lore, that's it. And then we get straight into the House Cawdor gang list, which is where we're going to start. Now, House Cawdor are the House of Faith, and these guys are absolutely my favourite house gang in the lore, and they were certainly my favourite gang in the last edition of Necromunda. Things have changed a lot for House Cawdor, as, you know, they've changed for a lot of the gangs in this book and in the other book too. And some of my observations about Cawdor, I'm going to need to give them a lot of thought, really, but overall, Cawdor work in a very similar way. They are still slightly hoardy, they're still slightly flamey, and they're still pretty pious and fanatical. Again, this is just an overview. I'm not going to go into real depth on this, but basically, House Cawdor now have the similar rule that they used to have, in that we have Redemptionists and we have Cawdor factions within the same gang. So what you've got is, you've got your pious fighters and you've got your fanatical fighters, Cawdor and Redemption. And what that means is, when you start a gang in House Cawdor, if you have more than half of your fighters are Cawdor fighters, you are a pious gang and you get the pious special rule. If you have more Redemptionists, you are a fanatical gang and you get the fanatical rule. Now, if you're a pious gang, so you've got more Cawdor fighters than you have Redemptionists, then you get 1 extra prospect in your starting crew. Just 1, and that prospect could be a bone picker, it could be a zealot, and it could actually be a walker as well. So one of the walkers, they are actually prospects too. It's not as good as it used to be. You don't get tons and tons of bone pickers at the moment anyway, until we get a journal, but that is what you get for being a pious gang. If you are a fanatical gang though, on bottle checks, you get to re-roll an 11 or 12 on those dice, which doesn't sound very good, but really, 2 in 12 chance of this happening, it's not bad, and it just means that if you've got a Redemptionist-focused gang, they're going to stick around, and they're not going to bottle out as quickly as other gangs. In terms of skill access, again, I'm not going to go into the specifics here, but generally speaking, Cawdor and Redemptionist gangs get Brawn as their primary, and they also get Combat as their primary across the board pretty much, with a little bit of Savant and a little bit of Agility too. Looking at the actual fighters here, and a sort of general overview of these, the Cawdor leader, the Word Keeper, is 115 credits, has pretty average stats, and I think 3 wounds is the norm for leaders across the board now. So every leader that I'm talking about in these videos, you will notice pretty much, I think, has 3 wounds now, which is definitely nice. And the way that lethality and damage works means that leaders just aren't going to get shot off the table with 1 bolt gun shot like they did in the last edition. They're going to stick around and so they should, because they're your leader, right? Otherwise, though, the Word Keeper doesn't have amazing stats. He's distinctly average. His mental stats are okay, but they're not some of the best in the game. Other than that, his weapon skill, ballistic skill is 3+, his strength toughness is 3, his initiative is 3 as well, which is not that good for a leader either. However, he is 115 credits, so he's a bit cheaper than some of the other leaders. The Cawdor Firebrand is the champion. He's 95 credits, and again, this guy has 2 wounds, 2 attacks, and you know, he's okay. He's all round okay. He's not that great again, but he is 95 credits, so he's a bit cheaper. Both the Cawdor, Firebrand and Word Keeper have a 5+ save as well, so they've got basically starting with what used to be mesh armor. The Cawdor Brethren, now the Ganger, is a specialist. So this guy is pious. He's a specialist. In fact, all 3 of these are pious because, like we talked about at the beginning, and this guy is your specialist. So this is the guy that you're going to have as a sniper with a long rifle, which is pretty good now, by the way. You're going to have him as your medic. You're going to have him as your brawler. Whichever specialist you like to go for, this is the guy that you give it to now. So when you hire him, 40 credits, 6 up save, very, very average stats, pretty much the same as what an old Scum used to be like, with 6 on all the mental stats there as well. Pretty much the same, really. He is the most distinctly average Ganger in the game, pretty much from what I can tell. 40 credits, and that is your specialist. Just going back on something a little bit that I didn't really talk about here. In terms of XP, the way that XP works is depending on the rank of your fighter when you hire them. So a leader typically starts with more XP than a Ganger, say. So a leader, in this case, a Word Keeper, comes with 61 XP. A Ganger comes with 13 XP. So what that means is you have more scope and potential to develop a Ganger or a Prospect than you do a leader. There are more level ups that you can do. So eventually, those Gangers end up with more skills than the leader. But the leader starts off with more stats. See what I mean? Your next fighter is your Cawdor Way Brethren. These are the guys on the little funny legs. These are your jousting types. They are 65 credits, and they come with the Ridgewalker, I believe they're called, and the dodge skill too. They are prospects, and they are starting XP 4 as well. Stats are not great, but the Ridgewalker is pretty damn good, really, especially when it's factored in for 65 credits. Not bad at all. Don't worry, guys. The Bone Pickers have gone nowhere. They're not called Juves anymore. They're now Prospects. In fact, the term Juve has gone completely, you'll notice, but we have now different types of Prospects. Your Bone Picker is also a Prospect. They come with 1 XP, and they're only 20 credits. Pretty much the same stats as before. However, they do get that 6 up save. So they've actually improved them a little bit just because they now have an inherent inbuilt save. The Stig Shambler is your brute, and he's pretty damn good as well. 240 credits is very expensive, and you can upgrade him to have the twin-linked heavy stubber for just 10 credits as well. He gets most of the stuff that you had before. Brutes are now just on your gang list as a sort of fighter, and you know, in terms of having the ratio of champions and brutes and hangers-on in your gang, as long as those 3 things aren't over half of your gang, it's fair game. So you could have several Stig Shamblers in your gang if you wanted to. For the Redemptionist, guys, there is actually the first big sort of misprint in here between the Redemptor Priest and the Redemptionist Deacon. The Deacon is listed as 130 credits here, which is the same cost as the Redemptor Priest. Clearly a mistake there. He's probably going to be around 100 or 90 credits, something like that. But the Redemptionist Priest is slightly better in stats than the Cawdor leader. His mental stats are somewhat different. He's got really high willpower, though, of 9, and he's also got 3 attacks as opposed to the 2 that the Cawdor leader gets. The Deacon is pretty much the same as the Cawdor version as well, really. His mental stats slightly shuffled around a little bit, and he also gets the 5 up save as long as the leader too. Redemptionist Brethren is the same price as your Cawdor Brethren now, which I think is slightly different. They still get the 6 up save, and again, other than the sort of core stats, the mental stats are slightly different, with lower intelligence than the Cawdor, but generally higher willpower. Your last real fighter here is your Redemptionist Zealot. Now this guy is 35 credits, so he's 15 credits, nearly double the credits more than a Bone Picker. However, he does get 2 attacks, so it's worth factoring that in there as well. And his mental stats are fairly terrible, with 5s across the board, except for 6 on cool. And then lastly, we have the Sheenbird, which is 75 credits for a pet. Very, very expensive, but 2 attacks, flying, 6-inch leash range, and frenzy as well. not bad at all. Actually, one of the better pets now. Now, we went through the trading post and all of the weapons in the core rulebook. What you're going to find in all of these gang lists now are house-specific house lists, of course, and these will be expanded upon once we have a journal out for each of these gangs as well. So the Escher and Goliath journals that have been announced are no doubt going to have an expanded house list in there as well, I would wager. And you have the same stuff for the Redemptionist and Cawdor equipment list as well. Some of these weapons we knew and loved in the last edition of the game, and they have changed a little bit. Some of the stats here for these weapons are as follows. We've got a few combi weapon options here, which are now pretty good, by the way. The combi auto gun flamer is actually pretty good, by the way, and you can shoot both options off at the same time. So a flamer and an auto gun at the same time if you want. Don't forget you can do that. The fire pike is basically a breaching 5+ AP-2 flamer. So pretty cool. It's basically a flamer with breaching now instead of rending. Breaching is basically what you get with power weapons, right? So not too bad there. The Cawdor heavy crossbow is still a heavy weapon, so you'd need bulging biceps with it. Luckily, your Cawdor fighters get those brawn skills for bulging biceps, and it's still pretty damn good. Again, though, the way that templates work means you're going to have to target an actual fighter, not just a empty spot on the ground, unfortunately. Shotguns, we get executioner ammo and retributor ammo as well, which is nice to have those options too. But the pole arms have changed quite a bit now. Blaze being the main sort of factor here, because Blaze was Cawdor's thing. They used to be able to set everything on fire, and I've played quite a few games against Cawdor, and they've been incredibly oppressive. One of the most powerful gangs in the game. Now things have changed. Flame and Blaze is more killy, but less annoying, so less disruptive. It's not going to do as much disruption, but it is going to kill fighters more, being sort of 5+ on the Blaze. That 5+ meaning you get an extra hit. Anyone under that template is pretty damn good. But the sort of prices for the equipment for these guys, the prices for the polearm blunderbusses here, let's have a look. The polearm auto gun is 30 credits. The polearm blunderbuss is now 80 credits. A whopping 80 credits on top of a 40 credit ganger. Bear in mind though, you can give this to anyone, a bone picker can have a polearm blunderbuss now, and they're still pretty good. They were seriously undercosted at 40 credits in the last edition. Now they're worse and more expensive. We're still going to be seeing a lot of them though, I reckon. The lances in here can be given to anyone, by the way, so that does mean that anybody can have a frag, crack, or stun lance, meaning your bone pickers run around with lances. I quite like the idea of a knightly order of foot knights with lances and little shields. I think that would be really cool. That might be where I go with this. The main thing I want to highlight here that you can do with a little bit of shenanigans, just giving you a little bit of shenanigans here, based on someone in my Discord community saying this, bomb rats are now really good, and you give them to your juves, you give them to your bone pickers, sorry, prospects, I must not say that again. But priming a bomb rat with a bomb now, whether it's a demo charge or something really, really nasty, is not a check of any kind. So priming one, you can just do. So you don't need to use any intelligence stats or anything, and as long as the bomb rat remains within 9 inches, you get to fully control it. Once it goes outside of 9 inches, you have to roll randomly to see where it moves. But this means that you can caddy bomb rats around with bone pickers worth 20 credits. You don't need anything else on them. Just give them a bomb rat with a demo charge or something, and you can caddy these guys around corners and shepherd the bomb rats towards your enemy. This is really, really scary, because on a 2+, these guys go off. Yes, they can be shot, but you can also just hide them behind cover and hide them behind things where they can't be shot at all. And then woof, the bone picker comes around the corner with a demo charge bomb rat, and see you later. Good night, Irene. I love it, and I can totally see myself doing a Pied Piper kind of gang as well, having bone pickers with bomb rats. It's just a great idea, and again, highlights just what you can do with the new edition of the game in terms of options. There are so many more ways you can build gangs now, especially with the gangers having the specializations and stuff as well. Sadly, you can't give the Ridge Walkers to all of your fighters. They're not a piece of war gear. They only come on those prospects, unfortunately. But we will be talking about mounts and things that you can take on every fighter in other gangs too very shortly. So without getting into too much detail, overall, I think House Cawdor players are going to look at this at first glance and go, they're terrible now, because they've lost Articles of Faith, Blaze is nowhere near as good as it was before. They're actually not that cheap either, and they're also not that hoardy. So you're basically losing all of the things that we know and love about Cawdor, except for the gorgeous miniatures and the lore, of course. But it's not that straightforward, and I think if you look at it a little bit more and you get involved on my Discord as well, you'll see that there are some shenanigans you can do, particularly with the bomb rats and the ridge walkers, things like that. And again, I reiterate, these guys will get a journal pretty soon, and I fully expect that Articles of Faith will come back into it, maybe in a stripped down version, but probably just getting rid of the crap ones and putting all the good ones in there. And they will get an expanded house list as well. I have no doubt about that. So don't worry too much just yet, Cawdor players. I first looked at this and I almost cried, and then I thought about it a little bit more, and I'm fairly optimistic about where things are going to end up with House Cawdor. They were certainly up there as a sort of S-tier gang in the game. Now, though, it's hard to see where they're going to be. I will come back and do a tier list at some point, again, though, when I get more of a measure of the overall game in general. In the meantime, though, let's talk about House Delaque. Now, House Delaque are still very good, I think, on the page. These are your sneaky boys, and, you know, the special rule that the gang gets for House Delaque is as follows. They get the special rule called Psychoteric Choir, which is very similar to what we had before. While a Delaque fighter is within 3 inches of 2 or more other friendly Delaque fighters, their leadership and willpower characteristics are improved by 1. It's pretty simple. Just means that if you huddle around in little kill teams, you're going to get your leadership and willpower improved by 1, which is good if you're a psyker. In terms of skill access across the board, of course, cunning is the main one. It's pretty much a primary on everybody, and agility is up there as well. Savant and combat. The Master of Shadow is 140 credits, and I think honestly is one of the best house leaders, if not the best house leader now, because he's got really good stats. His mental stats are 8, 8, 9, 8, which is pretty damn great. He's got a 5+ save. He's got 3 attacks. So he's got, unlike the Cawdor leader that had 2 attacks, this guy is, you know, a little bit more expensive and he has 3 attacks. He's got weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+. He is movement 5 and his initiative of 4 as well. So he's a really good, solid leader. You can also upgrade this guy to a weird for 35 credits, and you know he can take psychoteric powers, but he can also take other powers as well on a secondary. I believe, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he can. Underneath him you have the Delaque Phantom, who is your sort of normal champion for 100 credits, and this guy is pretty damn good as well. He's got slightly better mental stats than the Cawdor ones we talked about a minute ago, and he's 100 credits, so he's a little bit more expensive with a 5+ save there as well. Then we get into the exciting one, the Nachtgul. And the Nachtgul, I love saying that, by the way, Nacht. He still does his thing. So what you'll find with a lot of the super champions is they've gained a rule called Loner. Loner means that they operate on their own and they don't sort of benefit from leadership and stuff like that as well with other fighters. They are very much their own thing. Now, the stats are pretty ridiculous on this guy. His movement 6, his weapon skill 3+. He's no more weapon skill 2+, by the way. No more ballistic skill 2+ in this game at all at the moment. No more, really silly stats anymore. This guy, however, is still strength 4. His wounds 2. His initiative is 5 and his attacks are 3. So he's got lots of attacks, really high initiative and really high movement. So what that means is when you're charging, you've got a 12-inch charge range. When you are dashing, you've got a, 6... an 11-inch dash, which is a lot faster than most people. And he can also be deployed in the way that he was in the last edition of the game, so he can come on at the start of any round pretty much, and as long as he's more than 9 inches and line of sight out from an enemy, you can just put him onto the board. So pretty good, right? It is worth noting, though, that the Nachtgul, I love saying it, cannot be upgraded to a Psyker at all. So he used to be able to, you cannot do that anymore. You can only do that with your champion and your leader at the moment. Your Ganger is your Ghost, and this is your Specialist as well. So he's the guy that is going to be a sniper with that sort of Overwatch long rifle, or, you know, all of the other sort of cool shenanigans, medics, things that you can do as well. The Delaque Ghost is 45 credits, so I think he's 5 credits more than your Cawdor brethren, but he is slightly better on the mental stats with a willpower of 7. Other than that, though, pretty much the same. His initiative, though, is higher. As with an initiative of 4, it's the same as Escher. So these guys have got really good initiative, by the way. We've still got our Psygeist, and this is the first prospect. He's only 30 credits, which is pretty decent. Not very good stats otherwise, though, but he can be given some of the cool sort of gear and equipment that a Psygeist would get. For 30 credits as well, you get a free, Psychoteric Weird Power too. 30 credits with a free weird power, not bad at all. His willpower, by the way, is 7 as well, so it's not even that bad, really. You could easily get a willpower stat up and start busting off these psychoteric weird powers a bit more easily too. The Delaque Shadow is 25 credits, so he is your cheapest fighter, and he's pretty okay for a prospect as well, really. Nothing really to talk about that's different on this guy from the last edition. But movement 6 and initiative 4, again, pretty damn maneuverable. The Piscean Spectre is your brute, and again, this guy is a flying weird brute as well, so he gets to select a psychoteric weird power too. He's 250 credits, and you know, his stats aren't nearly as ridiculous as they were before, so don't worry guys, no more 10 attacks on the charge or anything like that. Instead, we get 2 sort of normally, and he has got a paired weapon as well, but we'll go into that in a minute. It's just not the same pair that it used to be. I think it's now 4 or 5 attacks on the charge instead of 10. Delaque do have quite a few pets as well. We've got the Cephalopod Spectre, which is the cute little sort of Matrix baby looking tentacled things, and we've also got the Psychoteric Worm as well. Psychoteric Worm still does exactly what it says on the tin. It's still a node. It's a node for Psychoterica. He is a little nerd as well, by the way. And the Cephalopod Spectre at 75 credits, not quite worth it, but, you know, a nice model. Now, in terms of the unique weapons and war gear that your Delaque gang would get, we still have exclusive weapons for the Nachtigall with the Serpent Fangs, and the Shiver Sword can only be taken on the Nachtigall, by the way. You can't give those to anyone. You can give the Psychomantic Claws as well to your Psygeists only too. But they have changed a little bit. The Flechette pistol has now got only 1 profile. It's still rapid fire and it's still toxin, but you do not get the sort of solid rounds on that anymore, so you don't have the option. It's just the toxin rounds. I still like it though. It's still good. The Serpent's Fangs, which were the scariest weapon on the Delaque list, are -3 AP, melee, paired 2, and toxin 3+ as well. So quite different to how they used to work. And the Shiver Sword as well is utterly different. No longer it has phase. Phase does not exist as a trait anymore. However, it does have parry, lethality 2, -1 AP, and strength +1. So not nearly as good as it was before. I know which one I'm taking for the Nachtigalls. Web weapons are a thing on Delaque as well, and unfortunately web has changed quite a bit, but I really do see quite a lot of uses for web now, having given it a little bit more thought. You know, when you look at web, you think, well, it's just kind of rubbish now because it doesn't injure anyone anymore. It just gives you a stuck in the mud. So you are, if you're wounded with web, you can't move until you're not webbed. So you can't move at all. You're stuck on the spot and you're -1 ballistic skill, right? Which is not that much of a problem for Van Saar or squats and stuff, because they can still shoot you. Yes, it's -1 ballistic skill, but, you know, is it really worth it to web someone like that? Not really, right? I think the case for web now is that you use it on Goliaths, you use it on Corpse Grinders, and you use it on Ogryns, most importantly. So being able to stop a close combat fighter getting within arm's reach of you is going to be a huge thing. And again, yes, it's not as good, but I think it's still quite fun, and I can see myself actually using it. I would also say that grav weapons, still quite a big thing for Delaque, are still very, very good too. And you can do lots of shenanigans with grav as well. So grav and web, still very much a thing, you know, but generally speaking, a lot of the equipment on the Delaque does feel a bit underpowered now, but I do think that the raw stats of House Delaque, the fact that we get Psychoterica in here as well, and, you know, it's still pretty good, makes Delaque actually still one of the guys that are standing out as one of the better gangs so far in this book. Again, I'm going to come back and do full gang guides on all these. This is just a brief overview. Moving on to House Escher for you lady lovers. House Escher are going to have their own journal out very soon. This is the first journal, so I'm going to be doing a gang guide on House Escher probably before Goliath, but around about the same time. As soon as I get that journal in my hands, I will be doing a full gang guide for House Escher. But if you haven't got the journal and you're just going off this book, this is how House Escher appear on the page. House Escher's gang rule is that they get to re-roll natural ones on agility tests. So agility tests, not initiative tests, agility tests. So if you're going to fall off something, you can re-roll a natural 1. It's okay, I suppose. It's okay. Now, of course, in skill access, Escher are the agile ones, so they get agility skills as primaries across the board. They also get quite a bit of combat here as well, and a little bit of savant and a smattering of others too, but mainly agility, of course, for House Escher. The Escher Queen is quite similar to the Delaque leader, actually. She's 135 credits, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, initiative 5+, Initiative 5 and a save of 5+ as well. Other than that, though, her stats are very, very similar. She doesn't get access to being a psyker, though, so she is just as is. But a really solid leader all round otherwise. You've got your matriarch, who, again, is quite similar to the Delaque champion here, just gets agility stuff instead of cunning stuff, and she's 100 credits with the same save and much of the same stats as well. The mental stats are pretty decent there as well. The Death Maiden, though, opposite to the Nachtgul, one of the best specials in the game, one of the best sort of super champions, I suppose. She is also a loner, just like the Nachtgul was, and her stats are as follows. She's movement 6, weapon skill, ballistic skill 3, strength 3, and toughness 4. So a bit different to the Nachtgul, who's got strength 4 but toughness 3. This is the other way around, toughness 4, as it was in the last edition. She's 2 wounds, initiative 5, and 3 attacks as well. 5+ save and 49 XP starting as well. And if you use toxin weapons, you can re-roll wound rolls of a 1, which is exactly the same as how she worked in the last edition. You then have your Gang Sister Specialist, who is 40 credits, so much like a Cawdor and Delaque Ganger, this is the Specialist. This is where you're going to put your medics and your whatever, your gunners and stuff on there. And 40 credits for a Gang Sister is pretty damn good. Not much to say on that one, really. You got your Wild Runners for 30 credits, and they come with the Clamber skill. And I do think in this game, Clamber is actually going to be one of those skills that is seriously already being quite underrated. I think movement in this game is huge, and Escher have the most amount of sort of maneuverability and movement. Giving a bunch of Wild Runners Clamber as well just means that you can really outposition your opponents. And I actually think Escher are starting to look more like how I would like them to look in terms of how they play. So 30 credits for your Escher Wild Runner with the Clamber skill, 25 credits for your little sister, who has pretty much the same stats. However, she has got exactly the same stats. So the difference here is the Escher Wild Runner comes for 5 credits with the Clamber skill, and the Escher Little Sister comes for 5 credits less without the skill. So you're paying 5 credits for a skill, and the only other difference is, of course, the starting XP. So the Escher Wild Runner starts on 4 XP, so she's already leveled up once, and the Escher Little Sister starts on 1 XP. So other than that, I can't see much else here. But, you're taking Wild Runners all the time, really, for that extra 5 credits, surely. The Chimerix is the Brute here. I hate the model so much, I kind of want to skip straight over it. So 25 credits if you want to upgrade to Gaseous Breath and Razor Sharp Talons as well. It's a good Brute, though. It's very, very handy in a fight. Very, very tanky as well, with toughness 5 and 4 wounds. I won't go into too much detail on the Chimerix, though, because it makes me feel a bit nauseous looking at it. The Fear Cat and the Phalanx are in the game as pets, and they are a little bit different. The Fear Cat is 80 credits now, so it's quite a bit cheaper. I think it used to be 120 credits, but it's nowhere near as good. It's only got 1 wound instead of 2. It's got 2 attacks, though, and initiative 5+ as well. Movement 7 can be on a leash range of 9 inches as well, and has pretty good claws too, which we're going to go into in a second. The Phalanx is 60 credits, which I don't know if it's the same cost as before, but 20 credits less. Still has 2 attacks, but only 1 wound as well, and has a weapon skill 4 as opposed to the weapon skill 3 of the Fear Cat. So slightly less killy, more annoying, has a leash range of 3 as well. The sorts of weapons that you'd expect to be on an Escher list are in here as well. No, you don't get a reduction on las guns anymore, so that's what you get for having 5 credit las guns spammed throughout the last edition. No more can you do that, thankfully. You do get the wild bow, though, which is actually a little bit better now as well. And there are other sort of things you can get. You can get acid ammo, again, on your shotgun, which is exclusive to Escher. You've got some really cool stuff in here, actually. You've got your chainsword, dirt bike, so everybody can take a dirt bike in this, as they can on a Delaque list as well, and a Cawdor list, I believe. Just dirt bikes are in every gang now as a piece of war gear. The dirt bike now is 35 credits, by the way, and they're pretty damn good. Combi Bolter Needler is suddenly a better weapon because you can shoot both of them off at the same time, and just combi weapons are just a bit better. They're the new black for this edition, really. And the Nightshade Chem Thrower, which was always pretty good but never pinned you, now does actually suppress you and is still gas, ammo 6+, toxin 3+. So it's nasty. It is nasty, and it suppresses you too. The Venom Claw on the Death Maiden is different. It's -2 AP, Shred 5+, and Toxin 3+ as well. So it's nastier now, really. It's pretty nasty. Shred is not good. And yeah, the difference between the claws on the Phalanx and the other cat are quite different. Lethality 2 on the bigger cat and only 1 on the first one. -1 AP on the talons on the bigger cat as well. Can't remember what they're called now. Oh, and the Escher cutter can be taken on any fighter now. Any fighter can have an Escher cutter for 150 credits. Boom. And you can give them the cutter heavy stubbers, the grenade launcher cutter as well, and the plasma gun cutter as well. So, you know, they're all going to cost a lot of money, and rules as written, they don't really work, but we won't get into that yet because I think it's going to be errated. So overall, Escher are in a really good place, actually, and I do think that in the last edition, they were arguably the weakest of the house gangs in some ways. I mean, it's never that black and white, but when I did a tier listing, the last time I did a tier listing, they were bottom of the 6 house gangs. Just about, guys. Now, though, I think they're right up there as one of the better ones, mainly because movement is slightly less in that we've got initiative playing an active role in movement and how gangs move around. That clamber skill on the wild runners, as well as just having high initiative, high movement, lots of agility. Escher are in a really, really good place, and I think when the journal comes out as well, we're going to get even more fun stuff for them too. We've already seen a preview on that for certain things like the Chem Alchemy, as well as other fighter types that we've got in there too. House Goliath now, the gang that I'm starting all fresh with. House Goliath are, you know, exactly what you'd imagine them to be. Big, absolute whopping brutes. They get brawn as their primary on absolutely everybody, of course, and combat as a secondary and primary on most of them as well. Their sort of main gang rule here is that they get +1 to strength on the charge now. So if a Goliath fighter charges, they get +1 to strength until the end of their action. Very important that you remember that one. They get +1 strength until the end of their action if they charge. What that means is Goliath fighters are no longer just strength 4. They're only strength 4 when they charge, which doesn't quite feel right for me, but they are still toughness 4. So, you know, give and take. The Forged Tyrant is 140 credits, so the most expensive leader so far. He is pretty good, though, at toughness 4. He's only movement 4, though, and his initiative 4 too, though, so the initiative is okay. It means he can dash 8 inches, which is not that far, but it's more than some Goliath fighters. He's got 3 attacks and 3 wounds, and he's just a big beefcake, basically. The Forged Boss is 100 credits, so he's actually the same price as the Escher one, and he's toughness 4, but his movement is less. So I do think that the value of movement is pretty high, and it's reflected in the cost there. The Goliath Stimmer is 120 credits. He's the super champion here as well, and this guy, again, he's the same as before, really. He gets plus D3 attacks if he uses his combat stims, and if he rolls a 1, he gets a bad reaction, la-di-da, and his attacks characteristic is taken down a 1 as well. The Goliath Stimmer, you know, he doesn't have weapon skill 2+ anymore. He's still movement 4. His initiative is 4-2 though. So, you know, he can charge 10 inches because it's D6 extra on your charge now, which is not bad. But it's not great either. He is strength 4 though, so he is the only Goliath fighter in here who is strength 4. And he's got 3 attacks as well, so he's definitely very killy, and some of the weapon options that you can give him are also really good. The Goliath Bruiser is your ganger and specialist here. He's 45 credits and pretty damn good, really, because you can have these guys just running around with bulging biceps and heavy stubbers. As you've already seen on the models, they still get the same gear that they used to get as well. We'll go into that in a second, but the Goliath Bruiser is pretty good for 45 credits, really. Still toughness 4, and, you know, getting that +1 on the charge as well. Not bad at all. The willpower and intelligence are pretty low, as well as the sort of leadership, but the cool is still high on Goliath. It's worth mentioning that the cool stat across the board is higher for Goliath than it is on some other gangs. Your prospects now, we've got the Forgeborn for 35 credits and the Bully for 25 credits. So 10 credit difference there. The Forgeborn, though, has the Iron Jaw skill, which is not a great skill, but it's better than a punch in the face, I suppose, and that's pretty much what happens if you've got the Iron Jaw skill. But the main difference and the reason why you take the Forgeborn otherwise is the fact that they're movement 5, so they're the fastest fighter in your gang. They've got normal movement. Initiative 3 still, but they're movement 5, so they are a bit faster. Is it worth 10 credits, though, to take that initiative, the movement 5 over the movement 4? Yes, I think it actually is in this case. They come with starting XP 4 as opposed to the Bully that has starting XP 1 as well, but I have made a gang list that has no Forgeborn in it because I just hate the models, and the Goliath Bully I think is still pretty damn good at toughness 4 for 25 credits. We have the Goliath Zerker, again a horrific model. Hopefully they redo this at some point. You can still give it the stim slug stash and the mutated fists and bone spurs too, but he's 175 credits and he is very, very killy as well. But he's basically just a souped up stimmer. And honestly, your stimmer gets more options, so a lot of the time I'm just going to take a stimmer. Your Sump Croc is now 65 credits, so a hell of a lot cheaper, but not really as good. These guys have still got the counter charge, so if you charge somebody who owns a Sump Croc, the Sump Croc gets to charge you first if they're within a certain range. It's really good. They can only do it once per round, but it's really good because when you charge, you get +2 to your initiative, and a Sump Croc's initiative is only 2. So that means that your initiative goes up to 4. You've got 2 attacks with a pretty nasty bite. So most of the time, if it's a ganger, you're going to hit first. So, well, pretty much anyway. But, you know, the Sump Croc is there as a deterrent more than anything else. Sometimes, in fact, most of the time, no one's going to bother charging a Goliath anyway, because usually the Goliath is going to deck them. It's just nice when you've got, I don't know, a Goliath heavy with a heavy bolter and one of these sort of going around with him just means that you're less likely for people to want to charge you. They're going to have to think twice before they do it. The Sump Croc is only strength and toughness 3, by the way, but it does have a weapon skill 3+ and 2 attacks, so it's not too bad. Still very slow at the movement 4 as well. Now, Goliaths still get all the stuff that you'd expect them to get: renderizers, pulverizers, and a bunch of shotguns and solid weapons as well. Stub cannons are in here too. Stub cannons, in fact, are pretty decent now, mainly because they just don't run out of ammo anymore, and they're strength 5, 18 inches, and knockback 5+2. It's pretty decent, really, for something that doesn't run out of ammo. Worth mentioning again, like Escher, the Goliath Mauler is 100 credits, and you can have it on any fighter. So you can have an entire gang on Maulers and dirt bikes if you wish. Still got grenade launchers, rivet cannons, and a bunch of other heavy weapons in here too. But, you know, generally speaking, it's pretty much the same as it was before. Worth mentioning that you can have paired pulverizers on anybody now, not just on the stimmer, and they're pretty good as well, having the paired 2, -2 AP and 2 lethality as well. Not a bad weapon, that. And also, if you want to tone it down, you can also have paired spudjackers on a bully, say, as well. So overall, Goliath are not as good as they used to be, mainly because we don't have gene smithing yet, but we've seen that that has already been sort of highlighted on the contents of the new journal that's coming out. So we'll wait and see that, but we're still going to get some gene smithing and maybe some muscle skills, things like that as well, if we're lucky. But, you know, Goliaths aren't in the same space as they were before. They were absolutely the best of the house gangs before, mainly because you could min-max the shit out of the gene smithing and stuff. You can't do that anymore. Many of their weapons have taken a hit. Shotguns aren't as good. Combat shotguns aren't as good. Bolt guns aren't as good. You know, and these guys are very, very slow. They still hit like a truck and they can still fight well. And they're still toughness 4 as well, which is definitely going to be a thing. But I just think having movement 4 and low initiative is going to be really frustrating to play with, because they're still just very, very slow. So overall, Goliaths, on the page at least, are a little bit of a loser in this edition, I think, but I'm still going to play them and still going to enjoy the hell out of them. House Orlock, the bikies of Necromunda. These guys are in a pretty good place, I think, overall. Their overall gang rule, by the way, is really quite good. And what it is it means that you get to use an extra fighter to work the territory. So in post-cycle, I believe it is, in a campaign, normally you can have a maximum of 5 fighters working the territory and getting 15 credits each, right? So that's the maximum you could possibly get if they're all fit. What Orlock get is an extra one, though. So you can have 6 fighters, you know, earning more credits. Now, this is great, really, in theory, because, you know, if your fighters are all fit, then you can do this every single game, and you're going to have lots more credits than other people, generally speaking. Well, a little bit extra. The trouble is it's keeping everybody fit and healthy to be able to do it. That's the only problem. Now, Orlock tend to get their primary skills split between shooting mainly and brawn as well, which is the same as before. Like ferocity and brawn are now rolled into the same skill set pretty much. But yeah, brawn and shooting and a little bit of savant throughout as well. The Orlock Road Captain is a bit of a weird one. He's 115 credits, so he's a bit cheaper. He's only got 2 attacks, so he's a bit like the Cawdor one. Less attacks in close combat, and also not a great initiative of 3 as well for some reason too. And other than that, he's pretty much pretty normal across the board, really. Not much to say on the Road Captain. The Road Sergeant, though, is, again, you know, similar to all the other champions that we've seen so far. Still has a 5-up save, is still 100 credits like the other champs too, and does nothing too special here. However, we still have the Orlock Arms Master, which is your super champion. Now, this guy has changed a bit. He's 110 credits, and he's now toughness 4, which he didn't have before. Now, if you are on the battlefield on the battlefield in any way, whether he's seriously injured or just injured, this guy may re-roll the leadership check. So, you know, he's not rolling leadership check, but your gang may re-roll the leadership check if he is on the board. That is brilliant. We've got the Orlock Gunner as well, and the Orlock Gunner is your basic flat ganger at 40 credits and pretty much the same as a Cawdor. In fact, exactly the same as a Cawdor ganger by looking at the stats here. Same XP, still a specialist, so you can have gunners and snipers and whatnot as well. Not much more to say about him. The Orlock Wrecker is next in at 65 credits and pretty good really with the inbuilt Nerves of Steel skill. Sure, your call is only a, 5 here, but having Nerves of Steel for free is pretty nice. You also get the jump boost with that as well, which is really, really good and has changed quite a bit. The Orlock Greenhorn is your prospect for 20 credits. It's a very cheap prospect, similar to your Bone Picker. In fact, the same stats as your Bone Picker, by the way. So there you go. The Cyber Mastiff is now 65 credits. Still has only 1 attack, 1 wound, strength, toughness 3, and weapon skill has been improved, I think, to a 3+ there. Still has a 3-inch leash range, and fighters cannot perform a coup de grace action against the pet's owner while it's in its leash range. Weirdly, guys, and I do apologise for you Orlock players, the Orlock Lugger is not in here. The Lugger, I repeat, is not in here. The other brutes are, and I've no idea why the Orlock one hasn't. Maybe it's because it never had a model. But hopefully when they get their journal, we will get a model for the Lugger. That would be nice. Now, the sorts of weaponry that you get in an Orlock gang have not changed at all. It is all solid slug weapons. There is a plasma gun, I think, in here, and a melter gun as well. But other than that, it's shotguns, bolt guns, and solid rounds are plenty. Unfortunately, many of these weapons just aren't as good anymore. And, you know, Orlock don't get any sort of boost to help them out a little bit either, really. But, you know, bulk, they're still good, but they're just not as good as they were before. Just like your Escher and your Goliath, you can also take an Outrider for 100 credits as well. So anybody can take an Outrider quad, which is pretty cool. You can have an entire gang on quads as well. Looking at some of the weapons here, by the way, I'm just going to look at the Arc Hammer, because the Arc Hammer is strength +3, -1 AP, 3 lethality, concussive 5+, heavy, knockback 5+, and unwieldy. Now, the jump booster has changed a little bit now, so the fighter equipped with a jump booster may choose to activate it. When the jump booster is activated, for the duration of their activation, the fighter increases their movement by 3 and gains the flying subtype. So it has changed quite a bit. It's a lot better. You now flatly fly. Should a fighter use a jump booster when making a charge, though, you get +1 to your hit and +1 to strength as well. So the same as you did before. However, now you are literally just flying. Now, the only downside to using a jump booster is using grenades. So if you want to lob grenades, they then become unstable, and that is it. You don't get the sort of pinning that you get for using it and rolling a 1 and stuff like that anymore. That is gone. So the jump booster is just better now. So all in all, Orlock are similar to how they were before, really. They still excel at short to mid-range firefights, really, with their weaponry being that sort of range. But also, I do think that the Wreckers are now even better, really, with the fact that they can just fly anywhere. They don't have to worry about all the shenanigans with how it worked before. Was just a bit awkward, to be honest. I think now things just make a lot more sense. They just fly until the end of their activation. So you can't just stop in midair because you will drop, but you got to think a little bit more about it. But it's pretty damn good, really. Anyone can be an Outrider. Pretty nice. Not more to say about that. And, you know, when the journal comes out, you're going to get the Orlock legendary names and things like that as well, I imagine. Okay, lastly, onto House Van Saar. And this is the one where I think most people who are going to get this book, who are Van Saar players, are going to look straight at the Van Saar gang on the page, and they're going to go, and they're probably going to cry, to be quite honest, because they're going to look at the raw stats of the Van Saar gang, and they're going to think that that is everything. It's not. It's not. I repeat, it's not. Van Saar, they are the shooting techie gang. Of course, they get Savant and shooting as their primaries pretty much across the board, with a few little bits of access on other skill sets as well. The Van Saar Prime is now 115 credits, one of the cheapest leaders. You heard that right. His save is the same as everybody else's save. They no longer get the inbuilt undersuit. His weapon skill and ballistic skill are 3+. So his ballistic skill is 3+. You do not get any 2+s on anything anymore unless you upgrade to a 2+, basically. So no one comes with weapon skill or ballistic skill 2+. It's just a thing now, guys. We are going to have to get used to it. Dialing it back a bit, though, before I forget, by the way, the special rule for House Van Saar is that they get +1 AP, or should I say -1 AP, on all their las weapons. So a las gun becomes -1 AP. Nice. So going back to the Van Saar Prime, he's 115 credits. He's only 2 attacks. He's got very average, you know, slightly better than average weapon skill, ballistic skill. His initiative is 3, which is terrible. His movement is 4. So he's slow. He's not very agile, he hasn't got much initiative, and he's not that great in close combat because even though he's got better weapon skill than he used to have, his attacks is only 2, and his save is only 5+. So that's why he's cheaper, guys. The Augmech is 95 credits, so again, a cheap champion now. With, you know, a 5+ save, 2 wounds, 2 attacks, and again 3+3+ on the weapon skill and ballistic skill. Really interesting. These guys are now as good in close combat on the page as they are at shooting. The Architect's a bit different, however. He's 85 credits, which is really, really cheap for a champion. Still 2 wounds and 1 attack. So no good in close combat, 4+ in weapon skill, 3+ in ballistic skill, still movement 4, initiative 2, which is terrible. But this guy has a 4+ save. So he's one of the only fighters in this book that gets a 4+ save out of the box. And we don't have Cyber Technica yet, so no bonuses on Cyber Technica yet. A really interesting fighter and certainly the weakest of the super champs out of these. But for 85 credits, you know, why not? The Van Saar Tech, check this out. The Van Saar Tech is your ganger. It is 30 credits. It's the cheapest ganger out of all of them. It's cheaper than a Cawdor ganger. It's cheaper than a Delaque ganger. It's cheaper than an Escher ganger. It's cheaper than an Orlock ganger. It's the cheapest house ganger in the game, guys. What do you think of that? 6+ save, 1 attack, 2 initiative, which is absolutely awful. Strength toughness 3, weapon skill, ballistic skill 4+, and movement 4. Slow, no good initiative, average on the weapon skill, ballistic skill, only a 6+ save, and the mental stats are not that great either. Leadership cool 6, willpower 5, and initiative 7. There you go, guys. That is your Van Saar Ganger. Again, it's a specialist, though, so you could take specialists on this, and we're going to talk a little bit more later about what they can get as well, because we've got all the Hive Secundus weapons and war gear in here too, which is quite cool. They've included it in this book. The Van Saar Neotech is 65 credits. This is your prospect on a surfboard. They're pretty crap otherwise, but they get the surfboard, which is pretty nice. Not much more to talk about there, but they do get the gunfighter skill built into them, which is quite nice. They can have 2 different, sidearm, or should I say light weapons as well. The Van Saar Subtech is 20 credits, the same price as a Bone Picker, and I think pretty much the same stats, except their willpower is 4. Wow, okay. Well, there you go, willpower 4. There you go. The Arachne Rig is just the Ash Wastes Arachne Rig now, and it is 275 credits, and that's your brute. They can have rad guns and plasma guns as upgrades too. The Cyber Arachnid is no longer nearly as good as it was before as well. It's now 90 credits, so it's more expensive, and it still has the web thing, but the web is just not very good anymore. But it does have clamber as well, and fearsome too. Still only strength toughness 2 though. Now, in terms of the weapons and stuff, you're going to get lots of Las weapons in here, of course, because then you're going to want to capitalize on that -1 AP. And some of them are pretty good, actually. The Las Carbine is basically still a Las auto gun, so rapid fire 1. We've still got the Las sub carbine. The suppression laser is actually pretty good here because it's strength 4. It only has 1 profile, by the way, knockback 6+, and rapid fire. A pretty good weapon, to be fair. And yeah, there you go. The Rad Beamer can only be had on the Super Champion there as well. And the Histrar Pattern Energy Shield, 35 credits in here too. Now here's where it gets interesting, guys, because all of that was fairly terrible. I think most Van Saar players are going to look at this, and like I said, they're going to cry a little bit until they see this little bit down here. This little bit down here says Grav Cutter on the war gear for anyone for 45 credits. So you can have any fighter on a Grav Cutter for 45 credits. Now you could have, from the trading post of course, a heavy flamer, which isn't a heavy weapon by the way, on a Grav Cutter. You could have a bunch of really cool shit on a Grav Cutter, and suddenly you've got a very weird, slightly different feeling gang. Shooting is inherently a bigger part of the game than it was in the last edition, I would say, arguably, from looking at it this way anyway. I think close combat is not only harder to initiate, but it's also harder to kill people in close combat now. Shooting, however, is just kind of better, really. So I think that, Van Saar is still a shooting gang. Having -1 AP on all of your las guns, which are quite cheap, by the way, at 15 credits, is pretty good, because suddenly that 6-up save that most gangers get isn't there. That cover save goes from being a 5-up to a 6-up and stuff like that. Like, it is going to make a difference, and I do think that their gang rule is actually pretty good, especially if you go with las across the board. But in terms of the Grav Cutter, by the way, it means that your movement characteristic goes to 7, and when you perform a dash, you add 5 to your movement as well. So 13 inches, I mean, everybody on a grav cutter, why not? You can get the Servo Medicae Refraction Cloak and Augur Specs in the game as well. The Augur Specs just is a 12-inch denial of infiltration. Pretty nice to keep those Nafghouls away. The Vox Array is in here too. The Camellia Line Cloak is in here too. So you've still got all those cool options for the Van Saar as well. And they're available on everybody pretty much. In fact, sorry, the Medic Specialist can only have the Servo Medicae. The Augur Spec can only be the Tech Specialist as well. So they do have specializations. The Spider Rig is available on the Architect as well. So there you have it, guys. A very, very different look at the 6 house gangs, and I'd really love to know what you think in the comments down below on who do you think the winners and losers are here, because it's really hard to tell at this point. Van Saar having the ability to have hoverboards and everybody but everybody being fairly crap and cheap is a weird one. Goliath not really being able to move around the board at all isn't, you know, strange, I suppose, but I think they're going to be worse than they were before. Escher in a really good place, Delaque in a really good place, so yeah, what do you think, guys? Anyway, I've overshot myself today and I've run out of time, so I'm going to leave this video at the 6 house gangs and come back tomorrow with another video on the second half of this book, which is going to be Palanite Enforcers and Venators and a few others as well, before I move on to the next book, Gangs of the Outlands as well. And again, shout out to Little Blue Dragons on this. Go check them out on Instagram. Stay tuned for the next video and do let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about all this? Because this is quite some change to the overall feel of the house gangs. Anyway, I'll be back with another video real soon. Thanks for watching.